Good afternoon, everybody, and welcome to the Province of West Lancashire Provincial Office webinar with a special welcome to those joining from other provinces and to those watching live on YouTube. Please don't forget to like and subscribe. My name is Andrew Rydell and I'm the Provincial Deputy Grand Secretary. So, to today's session. This is the 68th and last in the series of these webinars. Now that it's looking a little more clearer with regards to meetings, I've got a couple of points which I wish to cover, which have been cropping up in enquiries that I've been getting. So I'm going to go through those first. Right, so it's clear that we're certainly going to be aiming towards the 19th of July for opening up, and hopefully at that point we will enter the stage 4 and then we can start meeting properly as we will. Obviously we will confirm that as and when we can, but I'll just assume that date for the purposes of today. I've had a few inquiries coming up with regards to what they need to do, and I'm going to cover 3 specific topics. So the first one that I'm going to go through is regarding dispensations, elections and installations, and just a couple of other matters as well. So with dispensations, I'm going to have a look at change of meetings and meeting dates and or locations, emergency meetings, elections, other types of dispensations, and then the temporary emergency measures. I have been getting inquiries on all of these issues, so I know that the vast majority of you will be more than familiar with this. However, I think it's just good to be clear about these. So you need a dispensation for any change of date or location. So any change of date or location requires a dispensation, and you can move a meeting by 28 days either way. We have something in the province called the 7-day myth. Now, the 7-day myth goes along something along the lines of, if you're moving a meeting and it's within 7 days, you don't need a dispensation. This is not correct. There is a clause with regards to this, that if your meeting falls on a public holiday or a prohibited day, that you don't need a dispensation. However, in the majority of cases, when you are moving your meeting by 7, even 1 or 2 days, you do need a dispensation. Bearing in mind that the only prohibited day between the 1st of September and the 31st of December this year is Christmas Day, I think it's more than likely that you're going to need a dispensation to move any meeting. But you can move it up to 4 weeks, 28 days, either way. It is something that crops up remarkably often, how people say, oh, well, I don't need a dispensation, I'm only moving it a couple of days. That is not true. As I intimated, Sunday meetings are permissible between the 1st of September and the 31st of December this year. So Sunday meetings are permissible, but obviously you'll need a dispensation to meet on that day. Like I say, I'm going to whiz through these relatively quickly, but hopefully you'll see why. So with regards to emergency meetings, and these are craft only, you can have an unlimited number of emergency meetings. You can't meet twice on the same day, but you can have, you could meet, for example, 5 days a week if you so wanted to. Not really advisable, but technically you could do if there was a demonstrable need to do so. As I said before, Sunday meetings are permissible between the 1st of September and the 31st of December inclusive. On your application, you must state all the business to be transacted. Now, I've had a few coming in which say, they want to elect somebody an honorary member, which is fine, but when the summons has come in, it's got to take a collection, it's got to do all other sorts of bits and pieces. Any business that you wish to transact at an emergency meeting must be stated on the application. So please just make sure you do that. And if you have submitted an application, and it doesn't have everything on there which you wish to transact, please get in touch with me. At an emergency meeting, you do not approve the minutes of previous meetings. This cropped up, even this morning. I've had a couple last week where it cropped up as well. Items on the agenda, including to approve the minutes of the previous meeting. You don't do that at emergency meeting. And likewise, there are no risings at the meeting as well. So it's just a straightforward open the lodge and straightforward close the lodge. It's worth mentioning that there's been a new guidelines from London, which say for change of dates, change of locations, and emergency meeting, there is no longer the requirement to read out the dispensation in full. There is no longer the requirement to read out the dispensation in full. Simply report that the dispensation has been received is sufficient, and the wording of the dispensations has been amended accordingly for that. So if you do make an application for a change of date, change of venue, or an emergency meeting, you'll see that the wording is slightly different with regards to how the dispensation is reported to the members of the lodge and how it's recorded in the minutes. Just a reminder that you may not propose or ballot for new or joining members at an emergency meeting. One of the things that crops up quite often is is proposing or balloting for joining members. Unfortunately, you can't do that at an emergency meeting. With regards to initiates, though, I have put the asterisk there just because Rule 180 may be used. I don't mean 180, I mean 160. Sorry, apologies for that. It should say 160. And that's where you can propose, ballot, and initiate somebody at the same meeting in case of emergency. But under normal circumstances, you can't propose or ballot for a new or joining member. Other ballots are permissible. I mentioned honorary membership and also ballots for Rule 181 are permissible as well at an emergency meeting, providing the notice is given in sufficient time. So you can do other things. It's mainly regarding the admission of membership, the admission of new or joining members that you can't do at an emergency meeting. I should, of course, mention that you don't need a dispensation to call an emergency meeting in the Royal Arch. It has the same provisions on it in as much as you don't take minutes, you don't take the risings, but you do not need a dispensation to hold an emergency meeting in the Royal Arch. Just regards to dispensations around elections. So after the 19th of July, a dispensation is required to elect a master or MEZ for a third year. So regardless of anything else, if you are electing a master or MEZ for a third term after the 19th of July, you need a dispensation, and you need it for the election meeting, not the installation meeting, because it's a dispensation to render them eligible for election. So you must apply for it before the election meeting. Okay. I think that's clear enough. And I've had a couple of enquiries even this morning asking about a third term in office and them not requiring a dispensation. No, if the election and installation is due to take place after the 19th of July, you need a dispensation if they are going in for a third year. With regards to Royal Arch, a dispensation is not required to elect the principals or the treasurer if the election meeting or indeed the installation meeting was missed. So you do not need a dispensation in the Royal Arch to elect principals if the treasurer or the treasurer if the election meeting or installation meeting were missed. I do cover that a little bit later on, but just those two points on elections are worth reiterating. Other dispensations, as usual, there are dispensations for passing through the chairs, wearing regalia in public, and conferring a degree on more than 2 candidates at the same meeting. You need a dispensation if you're to do that. At the moment, the preference for multiple ceremonies is that they are conducted, is that ceremonies aren't conducted at the same time. This is part of the guidance that UJLE has issued, that you can't do more than 1 candidate at once, but you can do more than 1 candidate at the same meeting. So you'd have to do 1 degree and then another degree, rather than doing them both at the same time as if you were doing an ordinary double ceremony. So you do them one after the other. But if you're doing more than that, you need a dispensation anyway, so in order to do that. The temporary emergency measures. So for installation scheduled before the 1st of March 2021, if your installation was scheduled for before the 1st of March 2021, the temporary emergency measures are not applicable. The master shall remain in office until the next regular period of election, regardless. Full stop. The temporary emergency measures are not applicable if your installation was scheduled before the 1st of March 2020. So that means at your first meeting, you just carry on regardless, carry on as normal. There is no extra installation at all. You simply proceed as normal. If your installation was scheduled between the 1st of March and the 19th of July, again, I'm assuming the 19th of July is the date when things will open up again. If your installation was scheduled between the 1st of March and the 19th of July this year, then a dispensation may be applied for to elect and install the master at the first meeting. Now, this can be an emergency meeting, and it does need to be the first meeting as well. So this needs to be at the first meeting. You don't have to do this as well. You can just carry on as normal until your next regular period of election next year. But you may apply for a dispensation should you so wish. But again, it must be used at the first opportunity. So, for example, if you had a meeting in September, you couldn't then apply to have your installation in October when your installation was due to be in March. You'd need to do it at the first meeting. I've had quite a few enquiries about using the temporary emergency measures when their installation was, say, January or February, something like that. Unfortunately, lodges are not applicable if their installation was prior to the 1st of March. There is a small caveat on that, as usual, whereas if a lodge has no master, i.e. the master has resigned or died in office, then the temporary emergency measures may be used for that. And that's to prevent a lodge having to carry on for an undue amount of time without a master. So the emergency measures can be used in those instances. So there's really only 2 conditions where the temporary emergency measures can be used. Just to cover a little bit more on elections and installations, go over when elections are required, when elections are not required, and then thinking about extra or additional installations. So, when are elections required? So, they are always required when it comes to electing the master and treasurer and tiler for the ensuing year. But at your first meeting, regardless of what the situation with the master is, it is deemed that there is a vacancy in the regular office of treasurer and tiler or janitor. And as such, one of the items on your first regular meeting should be to elect a treasurer for the ensuing year or a tiler for the ensuing year. So what I've done is I've given you kind of a guidance wording to use for an item on the summons for your first meetings to elect the treasurer. In this case, it's treasurer. With regards to Tyler, just substitute 112 for 113. But that is the kind of wording that we'll be looking to see on the summons for your first meeting back, first regular meeting back. There's no need to do it at a complicated emergency meeting with it. But that's what we'll be looking for on it. It's deemed to be a vacancy in a regular office, which is why the rule 121 appears in the list. You don't need a dispensation to do this. It's a vacancy in a regular office, and that says that you fill the office as you normally would. And for treasurer and Tyler, you normally would follow rule 112A or 113. So that's you don't need a dispensation to do that. I hope that sample wording helps as well. You may, of course, add on there the only nomination of which the secretary is aware is brother X. It is proposed that unless any brother wishes to at the meeting, to declare the election in his favour. In which case, adding that in will mean that this item on the agenda takes approximately 20 seconds to do, 20 or 30 seconds. If it takes longer than a minute, somebody is talking too much. So, whilst it's an extra item on the agenda, it shouldn't take very long at all. But it's just one of those things that we'll be looking for on the first summons for the first meeting. I've tried to be as clear as I can in terms of giving you the wording for that, so hopefully that's helpful. When are elections not required? If the Worshipful Master is continuing until the next regular period of election, your installation has been missed. It was due to take place, for argument's sake, in January. Your election's been missed. Your installation's been missed. You do not need to elect or install the Worshipful Master again until we roll round until January next year. Nothing needs to happen. So you do not need to elect him, even if he's continuing by virtue of Rule 107 or 108. So I just want to make that absolutely clear. I've had a few inquiries where people have asked he's continued. We're due to have our installation in February. He's continued. Do we need to elect him at the first meeting back? The answer is no. No, you don't. Just the last point. Before I come on to that, yes, Brian, I'll just answer the question. The question: if a master retires or dies in office, wouldn't the IPM take over until the next election? If the master dies or retires in office before the 19th of July, and it would cause an undue delay in the master, in the lodge being without a master, you are entitled to, under the temporary emergency measures, elect and install a new master. You've put the IPM there. Actually, basically, IPM gets first dibs on regards to who can open and close or preside over a meeting. Any qualified brother, and it doesn't even need to be a member of the lodge, may preside over the lodge. It's yes, IPM would normally take first dibs. However, he shouldn't be pressured into it by any stretch of the imagination, or indeed feel obligated to do so. On the first meeting, I'm just reading Peter Tye's message. On the first meeting back, the WM is staying in office. We elect the treasurer and Tyler. What about the other officers? The other officers are appointed just as a matter of course. So what we suggest in that instance is that the worshipful master asks the secretary to read out a list of those that he's appointed to the office. As their names read out, they stand up. Then once the secretary has finished reading names out, the director of ceremonies says, court bound, resume your seats. And that's effectively the investiture of the other officers. And likewise, it should take very little time indeed. So yes, it does need to be done, particularly the wardens especially, but it shouldn't take long. And of course, after that meeting, once that's been done, the installation return is then submitted as well. So I hope that answers the question, Peter. Just thinking about the extra or additional installations, I just want to reiterate this, that there is limited entitlement to these, and it is lodges whose installation should have taken place between the 1st of March and the 19th of July 2021 this year, or lodges without a master where they've resigned or died in office. Those are the only two circumstances in which the temporary emergency measures to hold an extra or additional installation can be used. Just a note about Royal Arch, that you can completely forget everything that relates to the craft. With regards to Royal Arch, chapters must elect and install the principals at the first convocation. And that doesn't require a dispensation. So because the elections have been missed, the Book of Constitution says you roll everything over to the next meeting, so you don't need a dispensation to do it. So that's for the Royal Arch, you can ignore much of what I've said regarding the emergency measure and everything like that, because you simply do it at the first meeting, the first convocation back. Just to finish off, there are a couple of other matters that I just want to remind you about. The first one is regarding gloves, not wearing gloves until further notice. I don't think it will be long before this is removed, but we'll just be taking guidance on London, and of course, the Provincial Grand Master will be making that decision ultimately. But for the moment, no gloves worn until further notice. No full closings in the 3rd degree, no raisings to be conducted. But most of all, when we do get back, I do hope that you can relax and enjoy your Freemasonry as in the before times, shall we say. So that's a very quick update and overview on some key points within there that I've been getting lots of inquiries about in particular. The other thing, of course, which I just want to mention is regards to Hermes. We've had some very good feedback from the presentation from the talk last week, and obviously I've the link to the last week's session with Nigel, where we were answering all sorts of questions on Hermes, was circulated in there, and I would encourage people to have a look at that if they are or are contemplating being a secretary and continuing to be a secretary. That is now the third in a series of webinars regarding Hermes. The first one is from December, where Hermes was introduced. The second one was from January, where we looked at how the province was looking to implement Hermes, and then that third one being regards to how just answering some of the questions which cropped up because of it. This is obviously going to be an ongoing project, and Mark Matthews, who's chairing up the Hermes steering group, has been very keen to make sure that we keep people informed as much as possible, but we keep things ticking over, even if there's not much to report. So as soon as we do have something to report, we will obviously let people know. and get back to them. But what I would encourage people to do in the meantime is to have that conversation with their lodges, particularly if they are unsure or umming and ahhing with regards to using Hermes. We've been very pleased with the response in terms of what people have been saying with regards to how enthusiastic they are about it. We've had, nearly 290 people, 290 secretaries and scribes out of the 407 people. There's obviously more lodges and chapters than that, but there's 407 people who are a secretary or scribe in the province, and the best part of 3/4 of those have said that they are feeling very enthusiastic about Hermes. Some of them will take convincing, and there are others which feel as though it's their last time as secretary or scribe, and that's absolutely fine. And I just want to reiterate that we will be supporting lodges and chapters who are in that position through the groups from the start of the new season to identify people who may be suitable candidates to take over that role within the lodge or chapter. So that's really kind of all I want to say on Hermes. The information is there for everybody to have a look at, those 3 presentations in particular, and we will do a reminder of those kind of towards the new season and giving them. But there is a good amount of literature there for people to do. So I hope that secretaries and scribes who are less familiar with Hermes can, and I suspect it's not necessarily people on this webinar now, but the people who are less familiar with it can feel as though they are up to speed with regards to it. Just having a look at the a couple of the questions which have come in with regards to questions. No raisings been added. No risings been added. Chris, can you just, do you mean no risings, raisings? Can you just clarify that? Sorry, Chris. Is it an emergency meeting you're talking about, or a 3rd degree? Jeff, with regards to sharing the word in chapters, there has been the guidance from Supreme Grand Chapter issued. I will recirculate that or send that to you. It's all in there. So 3rd degree, yes, raisings, it's included on the guiding, Chris, it was included on the guidance from UGLE last September, last August, September, that for the moment raisings shouldn't be carried out. I think, and that is whilst social distancing guidance is in place. Now, depending on what happens or what the government says with regards to social distancing guidelines, from, again, argument's sake, 19th of July, that will, UGLE will have a look at that very quickly and come back to us on it. But for the moment, the guidance is no raisings to take place, no 3rd degrees to be conferred. Ian, you've commented about the installing the master, usually a close encounter. Again, the guidance was issued by London on this. It's advised that everything is done, basically everything is done from a couple of steps further away than it normally would be done, apart from the few seconds which is critical for that contact. So other than that, it's deemed to be safe in terms of the amount of contact there needs to be, and the time period of that can be significantly reduced and curtailed. So that's what London is saying in that guidance that they've issued. I'll take any more questions as they arise a bit later, but now I'd just like to just have a chat with Tony Harrison. Tony, thank you for coming on to the chat today. It's always nice to have you here, and I hope that you and Maureen are well. Have you been enjoying the weather in Morecambe?
Thank you, Andrew. Yes, we're both very well indeed. And I have to say, some days we've enjoyed the weather, others we haven't, when we've had some winds and rains. But at the moment, the weather's reasonably good, and we've had an opportunity to have our regular walks along the promenade, viewing those magnificent Lakeland Hills at the back of Ulverston, and yeah, on your side of the bay. It's brought us great enjoyment and a sense of peace and reality of the situation. Sadly, I've not had chance of a walk today, however.
It's yeah, it's a shame because the weather's quite nice out there
It is,
today. So,
yes, it is.
what have you been doing over the past kind of 18 months? I'm thinking kind of Masonically specifically, but you have a very busy portfolio clearly, and perhaps you could just talk about some of the highlights of that, or the highlights for you for the province.
There's not been many highlights while we've been locked up, I'm afraid. Um, I think quite a lot of time we've spent at home. But I do have to say, only this last Sunday, Maureen and I were very fortunate, and we were invited as guests to Barrow-in-Furness, where there was a local derby match between Barrow and Workington, and very pleased to have seen a goodly number of Freemasons from the Furness and South Lakeland group supporting their home team of Barrow-in-Furness. Sadly, on that occasion, it was 24 all, and so Barrow didn't actually come out winning, but are still top of their division. A great day out, not only watching the rugby, but being in the company of a number of our Freemasons.
Has there been anything over the past year which you're particularly proud of that's happened in the province?
Wow. Yes. Yes. Tremendous amount has happened. It's, as we know, it's been an awful long, drawn out pandemic that's affected us all. Sadly, we have lost many friends and colleagues and loved ones. I'm hoping in the first instance that when we do get back and resume our labours, that groups all around the province will hold Thanksgiving and remembrance services. And I really hope that the brethren will embrace the opportunity to attend, to remember those of our brethren and friends who have passed to the Grand Lodge above. So I do hope that we can all support those services. During the lockdown themselves and the suspension of Freemasonry, I have been extremely proud to be the provincial Grand Master of this great province and had the opportunity to witness at first hand how brethren right across the province have been looking after our own brethren and the families that have been in need of various things during lockdown. How they've assisted in PPE, in supplying PPE to various hospitals, and in particular at the early stages of the lockdown. I think also the wonderful, tremendous support that we got during the food bank appeal in December of last year. We got support from all around the province, both for foodstuffs and indeed for large amounts of funds to assist food banks right across the province, supporting the needy at that time. And I sincerely hope that this might become a community project that could perhaps continue in years to come, because we may still be finding difficulty year on year at that Christmas time of the year. And it's been wonderful to see how brethren across the province have volunteered to assist at the COVID testing sites and the COVID vaccination centres. I applaud those that have gone out in all kinds of weather to support their local community with those vital deeds. So full marks to them and thank you. There's been a goodly number of brethren all around the province who have undertaken various sorts of physical endeavours to raise funds for needy charities within the province. And indeed how the brethren themselves have sponsored and encouraged these brethren, how they've continued to support our 2021 Masonic Charitable Foundation Festival, which of course is now successfully concluding, and we will be celebrating that fact and all our outstanding achievements on Saturday the 18th of September at the Blackpool Winter Gardens, which incidentally I understand that event is booked to capacity, but fear not, brethren, don't despair. Put your name on a waiting list if it's not already there, because I'm sure between now and September there will be one or two cancellations. I've been very impressed as well with the way that the members of the Corinthian Club have been holding fairly regular evening webinars in order to keep in touch with those gentlemen waiting to join our fraternity. We do have a lot of potential candidates for initiation. There's many right across the province, and I hope that they're really as eager to join us as we all are to return to our lodges. What else have we got? We've got the rollout of the membership pathway, which is in the hands of our Deputy Provincial Grand Master, Phil Gunning, and our Assistant Provincial Grand Master, Peter Lockett, together with Neil Ward, the Provincial Membership Officer, and many other brethren across the province, including, of course, Stuart Cranage, the Provincial Mentor, who's done an awful lot for the pathway and the Royal Arch itself. I do hope that when we open our lodges for our labours once again, in certainly by the beginning of September, that the new UGLE digital marketing campaign, which is due to commence the beginning of September, will assist us in West Lancashire, as I'm sure it will provinces right across the country, in their efforts to recruit gentlemen to come and join us. So I'm hoping that we will be busy with the new candidates there. The Royal Arch, I think, have been quite busy. I've been very pleased with the way that Paul Renton and members of the Royal Arch Cabinet have put together the Royal Arch Nuggets. Of course, I don't know whether brethren are aware, but Paul is now a member of one of the committees at Supreme Grand Chapter, and he's assisting and discussing with other members of that committee how we in West Lancashire approach our Royal Arch, recommending additions to and amendments to make the Royal Arch more attractive to our brethren and more enjoyable to our companions. So I'm sure that will receive um, a great welcome, as I'm quite sure Hermes will do. It'll make life, I'm sure, a lot easier for the secretaries and scribes once they've got used to the programme, all its attributes and quirks. Of course, the Hermes Steering Committee, under the chairmanship of Assistant Provincial Grand Master Mark Matthews, and our Provincial Grand Secretary Peter, and your good self, Andrew, will be supporting this initiative as it's rolled out from United Grand Lodge later this year. And I've been really impressed, and I'm very grateful to all the staff at the provincial office, Peter, Andrew, Diana and Violet, who may be listening. So thank you very much indeed for what you have continued to do, working both in the office and at home to ensure that the province of West Lancashire has been able to continue to function and guarantee that there's always been someone available for you, brethren, should that necessity have arisen. And many brethren have been extremely busy behind the scenes during this long period of lockdown, and our craft and Royal Arch cabinets have continued to function almost normally, and how the provincial almoner, provincial charity steward, mentor, provincial membership officers, and many other brethren have continued their important duties with the assistance of regional group, lodge and chapter brethren and companions. Been so ready to help with any unforeseen problems that may have occurred. And of course, looking forward to next week, or I was looking forward to next week, for Monday the 5th of July is the NHS Workers Day, when the Sonic Halls, not only in West Lancashire but right across UGLE, I hope, going to raise the NHS flag in support of all those frontline and key workers who have been at the forefront of this pandemic, and will in some way be recognized. We will be recognizing their efforts. So if you get the opportunity, brethren, to go along to your Masonic Hall on Monday to support the NHS workers, to support Freemasonry, and let the public know in particular that we as Freemasons are supporting the NHS on this particular day. So anything else that's been, well, I think the only other thing that I would want to make particular mention of on this actual meeting as well, Andrew, is to you, the Deputy Provincial Grand Secretary, you must really be congratulated for the exemplary way in which you have prepared all these Tuesday afternoon webinars for us. A total of 68 Tuesday afternoon webinars during our lockdown. I don't know what else you've done in the office, but well done for organising these. Um, it really, they really have um, brought the brethren together, not only from here in our province of West Lancashire, but also provinces around United Grand Lodge of England and indeed from around the globe. And we've all had an opportunity to learn a tremendous amount about Freemasonry and many other interesting topics from our webinars, even from your knowledge of the Book of Constitutions. I think you ought to go on Mastermind and stand up against Graham Redmond. But we'd certainly support you, and we do appreciate the work that you're doing, but in particular, Andrew, the work that you have put into these seminars, webinars, sorry, have been really excellent. Of course, you have been supported with a good number of brethren who have participated in these interesting and informative afternoons that we've had, and I'd congratulate them for what they've put into to supporting you. I suppose sadly today is the last of these webinars, certainly for the summer anyway. I think it's right to give you, Andrew, a break from the task of arranging these for us. But most certainly, I hope that very shortly we will be able to return to a normal way of life and once again enjoy our Freemasonry and meet with our many friends and colleagues once again. So I suppose finally, I'd like to reiterate on behalf of all our brethren, not just those that are here this afternoon, but those that have joined us on many occasions over the last 68 webinars, a very heartfelt thanks to you, Andrew, for all those efforts over the last 16 months. And I expect that many of you brethren now will be wanting to get back in front of the television to watch the 2021 Euros for the late afternoon clash between England and Germany. Well, let's hope it's a good omen for us. We hopefully commence our summer weather now and our summer break for 2021 very shortly to recommence our Freemasonry, hopefully after the 19th of July and through the rest of July and August, but let's make sure that it does take off from the beginning of September. And may you and all your loved ones stay safe and well. I look forward to being in your company in the very near future. Brethren, continue to enjoy your Freemasonry. And thank you again, Andrew. Well done.
Thank you, Tony. It's been a pleasure doing these sessions, and it's certainly been slightly different to what I expected to be doing. I didn't quite expect it to go to 68 when we just thought it would be a good idea to get across some information about when we restarted last September. Yeah. after the first suspension. We didn't expect it to be going on until now. So, but no, they have been a pleasure, and thank you very much for your kind words on about them. It's been good fun, and yeah, I just reiterate thanks to people like Stuart Cranage and Neil Ward and Phil Preston, who came on and did a bit, and Phil Gunning, who's been here at most of them. His contributions are always welcome, and it's it has been good fun doing them. There are some memorable moments, particularly the tour of the George Washington Memorial. That was a particularly special one. But also having the opportunity to learn lots about the other Masonic orders as well. I wasn't quite expecting the post to arrive with 17 various different joining forms, but it seems to have happened. But no, it's been an absolute pleasure to be able to do them and to act as a resource. And I was very, very aware that, particularly last year, in some cases, this was the only contact that a lot of people had with other people, and to be able to kind of offer that kind of medium was not only a pleasure, but it was a privilege as well. So, and I thank you and Peter Taylor and the whole of the executive for the support that you've given them over the past year as well. So thank you. I'm, as usual, I'm going to hang around and just take any questions which may crop up. But other than that, thank you very much for being here. Thank you very much for joining me for the last 60, 68 or 67 sessions, 68 including this one. And I do hope you have a good summer, and I'm sure I'll see you soon. I'm going to hang around, but to the majority of you, thank you very much.
Andrew, very quickly, I'd like to echo obviously what the Chief has said, but I don't think we should underestimate the important role that this has played right across the province in keeping people together, and for the kindly way that you've managed individual IT skills, which probably at the start of all this wasn't that good, but at the end they're now fully Zoomed, fully Microsoft Teamed, and up to speed with all recent developments into social media. It really has proved a vital tool in keeping people together. And I don't think we should ever underestimate that. And a lot of that is down to you. And we do owe you a deep sense of gratitude for doing all you've done and the way you've done it. You've been a credit to yourself and a wonderful credit to this organization.
Thanks. You. Thanks, Phil. Thank you. So yes, on that note, I'm going to hang around here for a little while and answer any of your questions which you may have. And you can. I've ticked the box that lets you unmute yourself as well. But I look forward to seeing you all in person soon. But like I say, if there's any kind of administrative questions that you've got, then please just feel free to ask them. And I'll see you all soon.